She entered the wrong room. This billionaire's shocking confession uncovered a life-changing love. Emily's heart raced as she wiped down the last sticky counter at the diner. It was just another night in her small-town life, one of greasy burgers and irritable customers, but she dreamed of bright lights and bustling streets far from her reality. The hustle of NYC called to her like an old friend, but escape felt like a distant star, flickering with her parents' unfulfilled dreams etched in her heart. Just as she stacked plates with a smile pasted onto her face, an unexpected delivery request would pull her into an entirely different world. The rain hammered on the pavement as she stepped into the lobby of a luxurious penthouse. Her heart thudded in her chest, making her feel like a small-town girl lost in a forest of gold and glass, surrounded by shimmering gowns and flashing cameras. She was out of her element, clad in her modest waitress attire, feeling invisible yet painfully aware. That's when she stumbled through a door and into a private room, where billionaire James Montgomery stood. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude," she blurted out, eyes widening as she realized who he was. The man looked lost, standing amidst his own wealth, weighed down by an invisible burden. "Stay," he said, his voice a low resonance that stirred something deep within her. They spoke, and the walls around him fell, releasing the raw emotions he had buried beneath his polished exterior. He opened up about his family's recent tragedy, about the shimmering facade of wealth that couldn't shield him from the pain of loneliness and estrangement. She felt her heart ache for him, sensing an unexpected bond brewing amid their contrasting worlds. In that dim light, they shared stories, his of grand galas and whispered secrets, hers of diners and late nights filled with scrubbing tables. It was in that moment she felt a spark, ignited by vulnerability and understanding, a connection so profound it took her breath away. She realized, for the first time, that their struggles, though different, had a common thread: the weight of expectations. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A flicker of hope glimmered between them, yet fear lingered in their hearts. Emily could almost hear her small-town friends murmuring disapproval, while James felt the cold hand of judgment clutching tightly around his wealth. Questions swirled in the air. Could they bridge such vast differences? Could love survive the scrutiny they both feared? Then came the moment when silence stretched and weighed heavy between them. Emily's chest tightened as she searched his gaze, vulnerability bleeding into the space that separated them. What if this, whatever this is, could change everything? She whispered, almost pleading. The tension cracked, bursting forth with emotion, desire, longing, fear, and hope. They stood there, on the brink of something beautiful yet terrifying, each realizing that love in its purest form could either break or bind them. As they leaned closer, the storm outside raged on, but inside, a quiet storm brewed of its own, charged with questions of loyalty, sacrifice, and a future uncertain. Would they surrender to their hearts, or would the winds of expectation carry them back to the lives they thought they knew? The air hung heavy with unspoken words, each breath they took laced with anticipation. Emily could feel her heart thumping against her ribs, erratic and wild. In that moment, she looked into James's stormy blue eyes, and the world around them faded into a soft blur. It was just the two of them, standing at the edge of a precipice, the gravity of their lives poised to change forever. As they leaned into each other, the space between them seemed to thrum with unspoken promises. James' fingers brushed against Emily's hand, and a jolt of electricity traveled through her veins. It was a simple touch, yet it ignited something fierce within her, a yearning she never knew existed. She could almost believe that this was fate, that the universe had conspired to bring them together despite the odds, but doubt gnawed at her. The weight of her small-town life loomed over her like a dark cloud, whispering cruelly about expectation and judgment. What would they say? She thought, her mind racing. Would her friends laugh at her? Would they think her foolish for dreaming of a life with someone like James? James, sensing her hesitation, took a deep breath, his expression shifting from vulnerability to determination. Emily, he said softly, I know this is all so sudden, and I can't promise you that it will be easy. My world is complicated, filled with obligations and people who want to control my life. But being with you, it feels different. It feels real. His words wrapped around her heart, drawing her closer into his orbit. What if we both can't handle it? She asked, panic threading through her voice. What if it's too much? He shook his head, his gaze steady. What if it's the best thing that's ever happened to us? The intensity in his eyes made her pulse quicken. A flicker of hope ignited within her, battling the tumult of worry that threatened to swallow her whole. And the silence that followed, Emily thought about the life she led, where every day melted into the next, each moment predictable. Then she weighed it against the unknown that James offered, a whirlwind of excitement, passion, and perhaps, love. Could she leap into this new world? She reached out, intertwining her fingers with his. They stood together, united by decision and uncertainty. Just as Emily felt a rush of exhilaration at the possibility of their connection, a loud bang jolted them from their bubble. The door swung open, revealing a group of elegantly dressed party guests. Stunned laughter erupted from the doorway, and Emily's heart sank into her stomach. She felt exposed, raw, and very unprepared for what might come next. The realization that their precious moment had been shattered hit her hard. What are you doing in here? One of the guests smirked, the condescension dripping from her voice. Emily's cheeks flushed crimson as hurt washed over her, panic spiraling back in. James stepped protectively in front of Emily, his jaw clenched as he faced the intruders. We were talking, he replied, his voice now firm. Talking? Or was it more than that? Another voice chimed in, causing a ripple of laughter to echo among the group. Emily could feel the heat of embarrassment burning deep within her. Would they label her nothing more than a transient fling, a girl who strayed too far from her place? Fear gripped her heart, pushing her toward doubt. As the laughter lingered, Emily felt the walls closing in. Tossed between desire and insecurity, she knew she had to decide: would she stand with James, or let the waves of mockery push her away? Then, out of the chaos, she looked into James's eyes. Her heart swelled with a mixture of bravery and trepidation. In that moment, she realized that love wasn't just a fairy tale. It was a battle, a choice against all odds. James the first, she began, her voice barely above a whisper, but the tension hung thick around them. Would she walk away, or embrace the chaos of love? The storm outside raged on, but inside, Emily's heart pounded with unyielding courage, ready to take the next step. But could she face the storm that was coming for them? Emily took a deep breath, her heart racing in her chest. As laughter filled the room, she felt every eye on her, each gaze probing and judgmental. She had to make a choice, and in that moment, the stakes felt impossibly high. James, Emily said, her voice steadying. She squeezed his hand tightly, signaling her commitment. They don't know us. They don't know what we are. His expression softened, and she could see a flicker of admiration mixed with concern. Are you sure? He asked, the weight of the situation evident in his voice. The laughter from the guests rose, a cruel soundtrack to their fragile moment. Emily straightened her spine, wiping away the fear gathering like fog in her mind. She had never been one to shy away from confrontation, and right now, with James beside her, she felt a sudden spark of defiance. Absolutely, she declared, raising her chin slightly. This is more than just a fling. The words hung in the air, daring anyone to challenge her. The guest who had first spoken stepped forward, her condescending smile replaced with a critical frown. What makes you so special? He'll throw you aside like all the others. Emily's pulse quickened again, but she refused to waver. You don't know anything about me or him, she replied, meeting the girl's gaze with unwavering confidence. I'm not just another chapter in a story he's already written. As the crowd exchanged quizzical looks, James turned to Emily, admiration sparking in his eyes. He stepped closer, tightening his hold on her hand. She's right, he asserted, his voice carrying over the murmurs. Emily's nothing like anyone I've known before. She sees me in ways others don't. That declaration was a jolt, breaking through the tension in the room and shifting the atmosphere. The crowd hesitated, caught between surprise and uncertainty. Emily felt a rush of warmth at his words, a surge of belief that maybe, just maybe, they could weather this storm together. Then, a voice from the back shouted, "What will your father think about this?" The question cut through the air, heavy with implications. Emily's heart dropped. She knew all too well the way the world operated, not just in the glitzy circles of wealth, but in her own, where family expectations governed love too often. James turned to face the voice, his expression firm. "My father doesn't define my happiness," he stated. The conviction in his words hung there, filling Emily with a renewed sense of hope. They were choosing each other in this moment, facing down not just the skeptics in the room, but the pressures from their lives that threatened to tear them apart. "I don't care if this is messy," Emily said, glancing around at the party guests, their faces caught between intrigue and contempt. "I want to know him. I want to fight for this." As the words escaped her lips, a hush fell over the room. It was a tentative pause, as if the collective breath was being held in anticipation of the response. And then James leaned closer, whispering in her ear, "You don't know how much that means to me. Let us show them what we're made of." His breath was warm against her skin, igniting a new flame of courage. A throat cleared in the background, breaking the spell. An older gentleman, perhaps the host of the gathering, now stood with eyes narrowed. "If you think you can waltz into our world and command respect," he began, a warning in his tone, but Emily held her ground, her courage building, as she turned to face him directly. "You're right. This is new for me," she said boldly. "But everyone deserves a chance to be seen for who they are, not what they have. With or without your approval." The room seemed to shift again, the tension nuanced now with resistance and curiosity. The storm was intensifying, both outside and within. Would this stand break her or define her? Just then, James looked deep into her eyes, as if searching for assurance. "Are you ready for what comes next?" he asked, the gravity of his words stretching between them like a taut line, and as Emily nodded, the sound of rumbling thunder echoed in the distance. The real chaos had only just begun, and she could feel it coiling in the air. Would they rise above or be swept away in the tide? In that moment, she knew they were standing on a precipice once more, ready to jump. But would the leap be too much for them to handle? The storm was gathering strength, and so were they. The question was, how far could they go before one of them falters? The room felt electric, charged with tension as Emily stood beside James, her heart pounding with uncertainty and resolve. She could feel the weight of every eye on her, the whispers swirling around like angry bees. The storm outside rumbled ominously, a perfect metaphor for the brewing conflict. "Why don't you just leave?" Another voice chimed in, this one sharper. A tall woman with an icy demeanor stepped forward, her arms crossed. "You're just embarrassing yourselves." Emily's grip on James tightened instinctively, a protective gesture. "Embarrassing? Or brave?" she shot back, surprising even herself. This wasn't just for them anymore. This was about breaking down barriers, challenging the expectations that boxed them both in. James looked at her, admiration glowing in his eyes. "They're scared," he said softly, almost as if speaking to himself. "Scared of what's different. Scared of what they don't understand." She nodded, feeling a fire ignite within. "Then let us show them. Let us be that difference." Just then, the older gentleman who had interrupted them before began to step forward, and Emily could sense the shift in his posture, an explosion of words ready to launch. "Do you honestly think you belong here? With him?" Her breath caught as she met his condescending gaze. "Why not? Love doesn't follow a rulebook. It's not about status or family names. It's about connection and understanding." The chorus of laughter that bubbled up was harsh, but Emily pressed on. "James sees me. Really sees me beyond the surface. Isn't that worth fighting for?" All at once, the room erupted into a storm of murmurs. Some guests glanced at one another, eyes widening in surprise. Others scoffed, unwilling to entertain the possibility that this could be true. But James didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped forward, standing tall beside her. The moment hung heavy in the air, the atmosphere shifting. Love should change us for the better, for the richer experiences it brings. I won't let anyone dictate how I should feel or who I should love. Emily felt her heart soar with his declaration, words that echoed the very essence of their unspoken bond. She glanced around and noticed a few heads nodding, perhaps stirring with new thoughts. What's wrong with wanting more? Emily continued, her voice cutting through the doubt. More than what's expected, more than what's comfortable. Shouldn't we be encouraged to explore? To feel? The storm outside intensified, the rain now pouring down in sheets. It mirrored her own turmoil. Would they be accepted, or would they drown in the tide of judgment? As thunder rumbled and lightning lit up the sky, James moved closer, their shoulders brushing, creating a small world just for the two of them. Together? He whispered, his eyes searching. Always, she replied, her heartbeat harmonizing with the storm raging outside, a symphony of possibility and fear. But just as hope began to blossom, the host raised a hand sharply, silencing the crowd. Enough. His voice was firm, a finality hanging over them like the dark clouds outside. This isn't a place for your open displays. What you're doing could ruin everything. Emily felt a chill surge through her. What did he mean? Would they really have to choose? James, noticing her trepidation, squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her. If it's worth fighting for, then we won't let fear control us, he said, his voice unwavering. And just as they were about to face the backlash, Emily realized something crucial. If they faltered now, all of this, their fight, their passion, might just unravel. Then let us make them see. She shouted suddenly, partly startled by her own intensity. Everyone turned to her, shocked. She took a deep breath and continued, show them that love deserves a voice, even if it's shaking. The crowd's reaction was mixed, but the tension lay thick in the room. Emily could feel the pulse of defiance coiling within her. The storm outside wasn't just a backdrop, it was an invitation to embrace their chaos. Would they brave the tempest together, or would they fold under the weight of doubt? Before she could ponder it any longer, James whispered urgently, are you prepared for what's next? Because if we go down this path, there's no turning back. Emily looked deep into his eyes, where flickers of determination and vulnerability danced. Then let us do it. Let us jump. With just a heartbeat separating them from the future, they stood ready for whatever storm awaited. The real question was, what would they uncover about each other in the process? The silence that followed Emily's declaration was so thick, it felt suffocating. Every eye in the room bore down on them like a spotlight, sensing that something significant was on the verge of unfolding. James squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her against the swirling tempest of scrutiny and doubt. Show them, he murmured, his voice low yet filled with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. The storm roared outside, as if nature itself was echoing their rebellion. The hostess' face paled slightly, but he scrambled to retain control. What you're doing is reckless. You'll destroy everything we've built here. His voice trembled just enough for Emily to spot the cracks in his facade. Do you think we're the ones destroying something? Emily shot back, her heart racing. You're the ones who've built walls. James and I are here to break them down. A flicker of doubt passed through some of the guests. Faces softened, and whispers grew quieter. Emily sensed the shift. This was no longer just about her and James, it was about everyone gathered in that room, about unspoken feelings and hidden desires. Do any of you really think this is what happiness looks like? Emily asked, her voice rich with urgency. Hiding who you are? Pretending for the sake of tradition? A few guests shifted uncomfortably, exchanging eyes that said what their voices could not. From one corner of the room, a middle-aged woman spoke up, her voice wavering. But it's what we know, it's what we're used to. And isn't that the problem? James interjected, his eyes blazing with fervor. Traditions are built by people, but they don't have to stay stagnant. Growth comes from challenging what we think we know. Emily watched as heads began to nod. Hope surged within her. Maybe they weren't as alone as they had felt moments before. Maybe this tumultuous storm, both inside and out, was paving the way for something new to be born. The woman who had scoffed earlier now stepped back, clearly unsure. "Wouldn't it be easier to conform?" she asked, her voice losing its bite. "Easy?" "Yes," Emily replied, feeling emboldened. "But meaningful?" "No. Life doesn't thrive in comfort zones. It flourishes when we dare to be ourselves. Each of us deserves that right." The crowd fell silent again, this time not out of disdain but contemplation. Emily felt a shift, a crack in the dam that held back so many emotions, fears, and hopes. Then she heard a faint murmur from the back. "She's right," a man whispered, almost in disbelief. "We've all kept quiet for too long." The words traveled through the crowd, igniting more murmurs of agreement. Emily's heart raced even faster. This was the moment she dreamed of, an avalanche of voices shaking off the shackles of fear. James took a step toward the group, the expression on his face a mix of determination and gratitude. "We're not asking for permission," he said, the energy building like the storm outside. "We're here to show that love is worth any risk. Isn't a time we lived for what makes us truly happy." The murmurs turned into a chorus of thoughts, some in agreement, others in hesitance. But it didn't matter. Emily felt tingles of hope flooding through her as more and more guests began to stand tall, opening up the conversations that had been tucked away for far too long. But as the tension began to melt away, the host stepped forward again, his expression darkening. "If anyone else wants to join this ridiculous charade, fine, but know this, I will not be associated with this." "Maybe that's the best choice you could make," Emily shot back, her own confidence swelling. "Because love is never ridiculous. It's powerful, life-changing, and deserves respect." With a wave of emotion sweeping through the room, Emily wondered if they were truly about to ignite a change, or if this was just another false start. Love had sparked courage in her. Now, might it do the same for everyone else? But right then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the moment. She glanced down at the screen, the expression on her face shifting immediately. It was a message from someone she hadn't heard from in weeks, someone whose very presence could alter everything she had fought for. What would it say? And more importantly, would it change the course of this fragile new reality they were building? Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the screen, the world around her fading into a blur. The message was from Claire, her childhood friend. It had been weeks since they last spoke, and the absence had carved a heavy weight in her heart. "Can we talk? I need to tell you something important." A chill ran through her, pulling her focus. Did Claire know about James? About the walls they were trying to break down? Why now, in the middle of all this? A part of Emily wanted to ignore it, to stay present in this pivotal moment, but the rest of her fought against that urge. Claire was family. Before she could process her decision, she typed back quickly. "Where are you? Can you come here?" She felt a rush of uncertainty. What would Claire say? Would it pull her back into something she thought she had moved beyond? As she put her phone away, the energy in the room began to shift again. "Emily." James's voice brought her back. "Are you okay?" She could see the concern etched into his features. He was always there, calming yet invigorating, but something in his expression told her he sensed her distraction. "I just received a text," she said, shrugging it off, although her pulse was still racing. The moment called for her focus to keep pushing ahead with the movement that had started within this room. Conversations were blossoming among the guests after what she had said. People were raising their voices, sharing their stories, revealing truths they had kept locked away out of fear. "He's right," a young woman shouted. "I've been pretending to be someone I'm not. I'm scared. But it's exhausting." "Same here." Another chimed in, his voice stronger now. "I don't want to keep hiding who I am anymore." As their words melded into a powerful rhythm, Emily felt hope swell again. This was the change they had been yearning for. But as she shared smiles and nods with James, she couldn't shake the nagging whisper of Claire's message in the back of her mind. Suddenly, the front door swung open. Emily's heart lurched as Claire stepped inside, drenched from the rain, with urgency painted across her face. An undeniable electrical charge filled the air. Her familiar eyes darted around, taking in the scene unfolding in front of her. "Emily," she called, breaking through the noise. A hush fell over the crowd as they turned to face this newcomer. Emily felt the weight of expectation hang heavily. This felt monumental, like all the discussions that had come before were leading up to this singular moment. "Claire, what is going on?" Emily asked, rushing to her friend, leaving James's side. Claire's breath was ragged, her expression one that screamed both urgency and fear. "I don't have much time. I need to tell you the truth about your family, about love, and about what's at stake." The murmur of the crowd faded out as every eye turned toward them. An inevitable tension coiled in the air, so thick it was almost palpable. Emily's mind raced, caught between the possibility of loss and the hope she had just witnessed unfold. What truth could Claire reveal that would shake this delicate equilibrium they were starting to create? And would it serve to strengthen their fight or rip the tender newfound connections apart? As Claire's words began to pour out, the storm outside mirrored the whirlwind brewing within. And just then, Emily realized, things were about to get complicated. Claire stepped closer, her soaked clothes clinging to her as she looked Emily squarely in the eyes. "You need to hear me, Em. It's about your dad. It's not what you think." The room, once filled with energy and hope, felt like it had been plunged into an icy silence. Emily's heart raced, confusion swirling in her mind. What was Claire saying? She could feel the discomfort of everyone around her, tension rippling through the crowd as they awaited the revelation. "I found something," Claire continued, trying to keep her voice steady. "Old letters. They were hidden, and I wasn't supposed to find them, but I did." Emily's chest tightened as memories of her father flooded back. He was a mystery, a man she thought she knew until his sudden passing shattered any image of who he might have been. "What do the letters say?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's about his life before us," Claire replied, her words tumbling out hurriedly. "There was someone else, Em. Someone he loved deeply. And this woman, she was with him in such a different way. You need to know this because it changes everything." Those words gnawed at Emily's heart. The very idea that her father had a past, filled with love, secrets, and perhaps pain, threatened to unravel everything she held dear. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Emily's voice wavered, a mix of hurt and fear coursing through her. "Why now?" "I didn't know how," Claire admitted, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But you have to understand. It's not just about the letters. It's about the truth of who he was and how that might change how you see love, how you see yourself." The crowd stood still, their breaths caught as they listened intently. Emily could feel their eyes, searching her expression, looking for answers, maybe even looking for her to crumble. But she wouldn't. "Not here. Not now. Emily." James's voice cut through, bringing her back to the present. He stepped forward, concern etched in every line of his face. "Are you okay?" She wanted to tell him that she was, but the emotions roiling within felt too big to contain. I need to process this," she replied, her voice shaky but resolute. The tension in the room was real, and she needed space to breathe, to think, but Claire wasn't done. "Em, you have to know this could be the key to unlock everything we've been searching for." The wind howled outside, echoing Emily's inner turmoil. She could feel the storm picking up again, just like the one they had weathered earlier. The thought of her father's hidden life was darker than any clouds pouring from the sky. "Why did you keep it from me, Claire?" she managed, trying to steady herself. "Why now?" "I thought it was the right time for you to discover your truth," Claire confessed, her voice breaking. "Because I believe that understanding the past can light the way for the future. That it can show us what love truly means." As her friend's words hung heavy in the air, Emily felt a spark of something: anger, betrayal, sadness, but also hope. Maybe understanding her father could lead to understanding herself. But at what cost? just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the room, nearly blinding Emily for a moment. She blinked and found her resolve. "I need to see those letters, Claire." "But Emily, what if no?" she interrupted, a fierceness igniting in her chest. "I have to know. I can't move forward without this piece of my life." As the words escaped her lips, an unexpected strength surged through her. Emily felt the shift, a bridge built between the past and the present, connecting her to those who came before. Claire nodded, sadness in her eyes. "Okay, we'll find a way to uncover everything together." The crowd erupted in murmurs, emotions raw and alive. Emily's gaze found James, and she could see understanding there a silent promise to be by her side, no matter what storms lay ahead, but despite the comfort of his presence, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something vast and unknown. What had her father hidden? What truths lay buried beneath the choices he made? As the thunder rumbled above them, signaling the relentless storm outside, Emily knew, this was just the beginning. Emily took a step back, the weight of her decision settling in her bones. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, a reminder that the truth was lurking just beyond her grasp. The tension in the room was palpable, thick as the storm brewing outside. She turned to Claire, her eyes fierce yet vulnerable. "Where do we start?" Claire glanced around at their friends, then back at Emily, her expression both protective and sorrowful. "I have the letters at my place. They're fragile, old, and I haven't even read them all yet myself." Emily nodded, swallowing hard. "Then we go there. Now." James, always attuned to her emotions, stepped closer and squeezed her hand gently. "Are you sure? We could wait. Give it a day to sink in." The thought of waiting felt unbearable. "No," she said firmly. "I want to do this. I need to understand." The wind outside howled, and just like that, a wild gust swept through the open window, sending paper scattering. The sound felt like a premonition, a calling as confusion raged within her. As they shuffled towards the door, Claire paused, looking at the group one last time. "We'll be back, trust me." Behind them, murmurs of concern rippled through their friends. Emily didn't turn to face them, she was too focused on the path ahead, on finding the answers she craved. The rain came down in sheets, cold and harsh against her skin. But she didn't mind, it was invigorating, a reminder that she was alive and capable of facing whatever lay ahead. Each step toward Claire's place was a step deeper into the unknown, into the shadows of her father's past. Claire's apartment was a short drive away, and the atmosphere remained tense, with an unspoken awareness of the journey they were embarking on. Patterns of streetlights flickered past as Emily gazed out the window, her mind racing. Who was this woman her father had loved? As they arrived, Claire led Emily inside where the faint scent of lavender and aging paper filled the air. The room felt cozy yet charged, like a secret waiting to be uncovered. "Take a seat," Claire suggested, gesturing towards a small, cluttered table. Emily settled down, her hands trembling slightly as she waited for Claire to retrieve the letters. James remained close by, offering a comforting presence, yet even the warmth of his support couldn't quell the storm within her. This moment was pivotal, she could feel it in her bones. Each second stretched out like the pause before a dive into deep water. Claire returned, her hands cradling a worn, tattered box. "I haven't gone through much of this," she admitted. But some things just felt wrong to ignore. The trembling in Emily's fingers intensified as Claire opened the box. Inside lay a collection of yellowed envelopes, each one telling a fragment of a life Emily had never known. "Are you ready?" Claire asked, her voice softening, attempting to ease the gravity of the moment. Emily nodded, her heart racing. "More than you know." But as Claire gently lifted the first letter, a sudden crash of thunder sounded, shaking the room. A flicker of anxiety coursed through Emily. It felt like a warning, a choice teetering on the edge of discovery. She leaned in, straining to hear as Claire unfolded the paper, the sound almost ghostly against the backdrop of the storm. The first words echoed in her mind as they began to uncover the promise of love, pain, and the unknown. "My dearest Sarah." Suddenly, the lights in the apartment flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. The power of the storm outside matched the tumult within her. she wasn't sure if she was ready to face what was about to unfold. Claire. Emily's voice wavered in the dark. What else is in there? And with that, the lights flickered back on, illuminating a web of secrets that began as threads of her father's past but could very well unravel her present, and redefine her future. Where would this storm of revelations lead? And how would she handle what she uncovered next? The flickering light stabilized, casting a warm glow on the collection of letters scattered across the table. Emily's heart raced as she watched Claire delicately smooth out the first letter, her fingers trembling slightly with the anticipation of unearthing a part of Emily's father she had never known. "Let us read it," Claire said, her eyes flicking up to Emily's, searching for affirmation. Emily nodded, feeling a mix of eagerness and dread. Claire began, her voice a low whisper. "My dearest Sarah," she paused, glancing at Emily. "I can't believe this. Your father loved her, deeply." Emily's breath caught in her throat. Loved her? But she's a stranger to me. Sometimes love creates bonds we can't see, Claire replied gently, pressing on with the letter. With each sentence, Emily's world wobbled. Words tinged with yearning painted a picture of a life and love she was never aware of. Lament and laughter intertwined in those fading lines, revealing a passion that held weight and depth. Her father, it appeared, had not just lived with secrets, he had enfolded them in love. As the letter unfolded into memories of picnics and moonlit promises, Emily felt the warmth of her father's heart beating through the ink. She fought against the swirl of emotions. A longing surged in her chest. Was this woman part of the reason her father had never been whole? When Claire finished reading the letter, a heavy silence filled the small room. The only sound was the soft patter of rain against the window, echoing the tumult of emotions in Emily's mind. "What do you think?" Claire asked softly, her tone filled with understanding. Emily sat back, searching for words. I don't know. It feels like I've been living in a world painted in gray and now it's full of color." "The past can do that," James said, his voice a comforting anchor. "But it can also hurt. You have to decide what you want to do with this." Emily sighed heavily, unsure of how to navigate the weight of history. "What if I don't like what I find? Or what if I feel even more lost?" Claire reached over, placing a hand on Emily's. "You won't be alone. We're here. But if you want to keep going, we have more letters." Biting her lip, Emily met Claire's gaze. "More letters? How many are there?" "Several," Claire answered, her voice steady. "Each one is a piece of your father's life with Sarah." An urge to know, to feel every scrap of his world blazed within her. "Let us read them all," she said, her voice steady now, determination set in her heart. With renewed urgency, Claire gathered more letters. As she read the next, Emily leaned closer, hanging on each word. The tales of shared dreams and unfulfilled promises echoed through the room. The thrill mingled with anxiety, tension thrumming in her chest. Then, Claire stumbled upon a letter marked "Last." She hesitated, glancing at Emily. "This one might be hard." "Read it," Emily urged. "I need to know." With a deep breath, Claire began, her tone heavier now as she read about a love that faced challenges, one that was perhaps destined to end. Emily felt her heart constrict as the words described loss and heartbreak, revealing her father's vulnerability. As the final lines fell from Claire's lips, the air thickened with tension. Emily's chest tightened. "There's so much pain," she whispered, tears prickling her eyes. James moved beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "It's okay to feel that. You're not just uncovering the past, you're confronting everything your father felt." Suddenly, a crash sounded outside. The wind had flung a branch against the window. Emily jumped, heart racing anew. "This is too much. I need a moment." "Take your time," Claire said, her voice steady. Emily stood and stepped to the window, the raging storm outside a mirror for her turmoil. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, staring into the darkened streets beyond. Could these revelations alter her path? Would they change how she saw her father and herself? In that moment, she realized she was on the brink of something transformative. A new truth awaited, buried beneath layers of time, loss, and love. But as she turned back, the letters pressed on her mind. What more would they reveal? What if they held deeper secrets that could shatter everything she thought she knew? As she faced her friends, the weight of expectation hung heavily in the air. "I'm ready for whatever comes next," she declared, though inside, uncertainty swirled like the storm outside. What more lay hidden amidst those letters, waiting to unravel her life? And would she be able to handle the truths they contained? Emily took a deep breath, her hands still resting on the windowsill as she steadied herself, gazing at the storm rage outside. In that moment, something in her shifted. She realized that these letters weren't merely artifacts of her father's past. They were a bridge to understanding who she was and the heart she carried within. With renewed resolve, she turned from the window and faced Claire and James. "Okay, let us keep going," she said, her voice thick but steady. "I want to know everything." Claire nodded, the determination in Emily's eyes inspiring her. She reached for another letter from the box, her fingers trembling slightly yet filled with purpose. "This one is from just before he lost Sarah," she said, unfolding the fragile paper carefully. Each word seemed to echo through the air, the gravity of the moment heavy with the possibility of insight. As Claire read, the room became enveloped in stories of love that defied expectation and heartbreak that shaped a soul. Emily listened intently, feeling as if she were standing in the space between past and present, learning about a man whose life had been both colorful and burdened. "He was deeply in love with her, Emily," Claire said softly after finishing the letter. "Despite everything, he cherished that love. But why keep it all hidden?" she asked, her chest heavy with questions. "Why not tell me?" Obscured memories of her father's quiet demeanor echoed back. Was there so much pain that he preferred to shield her from it? "Perhaps he believed protecting you from his past would protect you from hurt," James replied, his expression gentle. "But look at us now. We all have our scars, and they shape us." His words struck a chord. The uncertainty and fear that had gripped her heart began melting away, replaced with something more powerful: acceptance. "Maybe it's time we stop letting fear define us," Emily said, her own voice growing stronger. "He lived, loved fiercely, and felt deeply. I can honor that by accepting all parts of him and myself." Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the room, creating a burst of light in the enveloping shadows, a stark reminder of the storm outside but also a signal of clarity. One final letter remained, and Claire's hands shook with anticipation as she gingerly retrieved it. "This could be really emotional," she warned. Emily nodded, feeling both dread and excitement surge within her. This was it. This letter might hold the key to understanding everything, including her father's final moments or his thoughts about her. Claire opened it, her voice trembling slightly as she began to read. The words flowed like a river, revealing deep-rooted love, regret, and the unfulfilled potential of what might have been. Emily felt tears prick her eyes, cascading down her cheeks as she realized her father had wrestled with the weight of his choices, carrying burdens just as she had. "And my dear Emily," Claire read, pausing to gather her composure. "Even though the scars I bear may haunt me, I hope you will always seek the joy and love that life has to offer. Live without fear, embrace love, and remember, every heart is worthy of being seen." Each word reverberated through Emily like a lifeline. Her father had left behind an inheritance far richer than material wealth, reminding her to embrace life fully, without the weight of fear or expectation stifling her spirit. "I get it now," Emily whispered, the realization washing over her like a warm embrace. "He wanted me to learn this for myself." The outpouring of emotion was both freeing and profound. Here stood a girl who had always felt like a small-town girl, now stepping into her power, claiming her truth. The silence that followed was suffused with raw emotion, hearts resonating with understanding. Finally, she turned to James, who had been silently absorbing everything. His eyes softened as their gazes locked, and she couldn't help but feel that same spark that had ignited their connection from the very beginning. "I understand that we were brought together across all this chaos," she said with conviction, squeezing his hand tenderly. "I want you in my life, even knowing the storms we may face. I choose us." His smile was radiant, illuminating the fear they had both harbored. "And I choose you," he replied, his voice steady and filled with warmth. They stood together, grounded in the strength of their love, ready to face the future. As Emily stepped into the next chapter of her life, she knew this was only the beginning. She felt the change she had longed for, not just in her world, but in her heart. She was transforming, embracing every piece of her father and herself along the way. This was a love that could withstand storms, a bond that was authentic and real. "Let us go back," she finally said, poised and ready. "Let us show them that love can conquer judgment, and let us honor my father's legacy by living boldly." The storm outside began to ease, the clouds dissipating as they moved toward the door. It felt like a new dawn, a promise of hope waiting just beyond the horizon. With hands intertwined, they stepped into the light, ready to carve their path through the world together, armed with the acceptance of their past, the bravery of their present, and the promise of an uncharted future filled with love. Now, more than ever, they knew the truth: love was a journey, and together, they were prepared to take its next step. And as the sun began to peek through the remnants of the storm, Emily turned to the camera, smiling brightly. "You need to subscribe now to follow our journey and don't miss the next exclusive stories of love and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support us. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. I want to know what you think. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.